Welcome to Living the Dream, sponsored by Jackrabbit Dance, the podcast that brings together studio owners, dance educators, and leaders in the industry. Hosted by Ree Gold and Laura Giacomelli, each episode is packed with real talk, inspiration, and a passion for the dance life. We're so glad you're here. And hello, friends. Good evening. I'm excited to have you on Thursday nighttime version of Living the Dream. I'd like to introduce you to my co-host, the always inspiring Laura Giacomelli.
Well, thank you, Ree. Hi, everyone. We are so glad you are tuning in tonight. Whether you're watching live or catching the replay, we have some really special guests lined up this evening.
We sure do. Tonight's episode is about partnership, purpose, and building something meaningful. And working with your significant other to make that happen.
Yep, exactly. And remember, we want to hear from you. So if you are watching live, please drop a question or a comment, and we will hopefully try to work that into our segment. So, Ree, how are things with you? I feel like we just spoke 2 days ago, but how's life now?
Life is getting ready for the conference. I'm in Massachusetts. I know I told you this morning that I hadn't told my friends I was in Massachusetts, so I'm thinking if any of them are watching, I let that out of the bag.
I was going to say, yep.
Here I go. Kind of locked up in a nice hotel suite where now when I come back, I've actually been here 3 times. And I love this. I have a routine of finding myself a space where I can just work on my laptop, no disruptions, and get every speech and every nook and cranny of the conference figured out.
I kind of feel like the conference must feel like running just day-long recitals, one after another, like I'm really thinking about that. I'm like, it's like 10 days of just shows, and I'm like, I'm exhausted after 3 in one day. So I couldn't imagine waking up, be like, we're gonna do it again and again. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot of work.
5 ballrooms at the same time.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
There's staff for that. There are galas that have to be planned, entertainment, breakfast. It's quite a happening.
Yeah.
But I'm about next year when we head to Florida for the Dance Life Teacher Conference, Oceanfront, Hollywood, Florida.
Yeah.
That's the 30th anniversary. So I should have it down by now, but and everybody who runs the show knows, every year something new and different teaches you lessons. How about we put it that way?
Yeah, but like you say, the show must go on, and the show always goes on. And I think unless you're behind the scenes, you don't see it. It's always seamless. The conference is always seamless from the audience perspective, and people who are there to learn and to dance and be inspired. They don't see all the technical moments that I feel like maybe people on your team feel and see. They're there and they enjoy themselves. At least that's how I felt when I was just attending.
Yeah, I actually love to hear that, because that is the impression that I want to give. And you know what? 99% of the time it is that way. I have a great team who knows the routine. And that's an appreciated comment. What's exciting in your life right now?
What's exciting in my life? So between Monday and today, I started 4 new dances for this season. We were talking about on Monday that I take some time off to be inspired, and I took like 2 full weeks off. So I went back into the studio on Wednesday night, and I taught 7 hours of rehearsal. First off, I was like, well, I'm going to be 40. How am I going to do 7 hours in a row? Why did I do this to myself? And then I got in there and I was like, I don't know, but did you ever have like a moment, Ree, where you're like, I had this last night. Like, I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do in life. When I like left that classroom, my mom runs my office one night a week. And I walked into the office and I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but I was like, I still got it. And she laughed. She goes, honey, of course you do. She goes, I peeked in. I saw those dances. But like, you turn the music on and my brain automatically just saw this lyrical soloist doing her dance. The jazz song came on. I saw this jazz soloist doing, like, it just all came to me in the moment. So I guess my
So
theory of taking some time off worked, to get the juices flowing and,
I want to ask you this. Do you go into the room with the choreography thought out in your mind, or are you spontaneously creating?
So I have always been an on the spot choreographer. And I used to get intimidated by other choreographers that would walk in when I would like, before I owned my own studio, I said I lived the gypsy life when you work at one studio one night, another studio that I called that when I would live my gypsy life. And I loved my gypsy life. But I remember working at a certain studio and everyone had their copybooks and their formations written down. And I was like, maybe I don't have my stuff together. So I used to do that. And then I would make the kids follow whatever I have in my copybook. And I remember looking at them and I was like, I hate that. And they were like, their little faces. I was like, no, not you. I don't like what I did. And they were like, so what does that mean? I'm like, scratch it. Go stand against the wall. And I just put the music on and I saw something completely else happening in my brain and I liked it more. And I've always been able to just choreograph like that. I that's how my brain works. And it actually it's always better than anything I have pre-planned. I mean, I have my warm-up set, what I do across the floor, progressions, things like that. When it comes to choreography, I'm always give me a feeling, a good piece of music, an inspiring group of dancers, and it just happens.
I was taught what you described, which was like put it all down in the book, put the formations in the book, because I took a couple of different teacher training courses growing up.
Yeah.
But I found my best way to choreograph was to immerse myself in the music. Okay, whether that be in the car or just with back then it was your headphones on in front of your stereo, and know the music so well that I could write down circle, like start writing lines or eights, and circle those lines and go circle formation, jump on an accent on eight.
Yes.
So I would write that stuff down and then be able to go in a room and create what I needed to create. That was the way for me. If I didn't know my music, if I was trying to wing that, because in my younger age, I would wing it and there'd be a 12 count. And I didn't plan for the 12 count as I was teaching the choreography. So I learned that the key for me was knowing my music, knowing all the accents, knowing what felt like this is what should be in this spot. And it really worked out well.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like that's when the magic happens, though. Yes, I agree. All the songs that I've choreographed to, I've always felt connected to. Like for our soloists, I always send them 3 options because I want them to feel that connection to the song and like their song. And so I let them pick. But even the 3 that I send them, I have to I play the whole song before I send it to them. I'm like, can I picture Chloe dancing to this? And I said, can I picture Gracie dancing to these? Are my soloists? Like who can I picture dancing to this song on stage? And do I like it? Do I feel inspired listening to it? Can I visualize her doing it? So it's really cool when you think about like an artist's brain, how it works. And I had someone, you're gonna laugh at me. My ex-husband was an engineer, mechanical engineer. And I was describing what I just described to you when we were on like our second date. This should have been a red flag where you'll laugh at this. And I'm describing how I just, it just kind of comes into my brain, and it just happens. It's just my years of training, being exposed to different choreographers and different styles. He looks me dead in the eye and he goes, "Aren't you scared that someday your brain will just stop doing that?" And I was like, "Not until this very moment. Thank you very much." Oh my God. I'm like, that should have been a red flag.
Yeah, that's funny. So
Oh.
Miss June is here.
Oh, hey, June.
And I am now going to say hello to Erin Ray. Hi, Erin. Nice to
Hi,
see
Erin.
you.
Hope your shows went great, you guys. I know Erin just had her show recently, just like two or 3 weeks ago.
Okay, let's do this. We are going to go to Jackrabbit, Miss Laura.
Mm-hmm.
I gotcha. I was expecting you and I thought within this script we had lines to introduce this video, but they're after the video. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Jackrabbit Dance, the industry's leading studio management software, from scheduling to billing to keeping your studio life organized. It's a lifesaver for studios across America. Let's hear from Jackrabbit Dance, and we'll be back with Muffy and Wayne right after this.
This episode is sponsored by Jackrabbit Dance, the dance studio software empowering you to build the studio of your dreams. With over 20 years of experience, Jackrabbit has the solutions and industry insights to help your business grow. Want to increase student enrollment, optimize your pricing to be profitable, or improve staff retention? See how other studios are using Jackrabbit Dance to hit their goals year after year. To learn more, visit jackrabbitdance.com/benchmarks.
Thank you, Jackrabbit Dance, and welcome, Muffy and Wayne.
Thank you.
Hey, it's great to be here, guys. How are you doing?
Nice to see both.
Yes, thank you for being here tonight. We're so excited to have you, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you guys. First, I want to say that as members of the Gold Alliance, I enjoy watching you two and how you do what you do together.
Yeah.
And also how you bring uniqueness to what I would call the typical dance studio model. So I'm saying that publicly for those watching and those who will be listening to the podcast. I appreciate both of you and what you bring.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. Yes.
We're going to play that back for our staff, though, because they think we're fun to watch sometimes, too. So.
Is it a different kind of fun than maybe I was thinking?
Maybe sometimes.
Okay, so I know that your starting out story is very unique from most dance studios. Your foundation was laid a little bit differently, and that was Wayne. Am I right on that?
Yes, that is true. Actually, I grew up, like I said, playing music, and we had a family band, and my mother was very supportive, and we did a little bit of everything. We did plays, we did all sorts of stuff. But the big thing was I ended up going to school for theater and different things, and life happened, and I ended up getting a job. I got a call one day that says, "Hey, there's an opening here at the pawn shop." I said, "The pawn shop?" "Yeah, the guy just quit. There's an opening." It was someone I knew that I played music with. He said, "Come down here to the pawn shop and you can get a job." And I said, "Okay." So I went to work at a place called Southern Pawn, which later became Southern Pawn in Music. That's now out of business, unfortunately. But to cut to the chase, I worked there for 12, 13 years. I started there in 85, and the funny thing is, I wanted to expand that into music, and we actually rebranded it to Southern Pawn and Music. And I wanted to do music lessons, but the owners of the pawn shop didn't want to do that. And I ran it for, like I said, 10 years. I was manager, and at that point, I went ahead.
Wait! I got to ask, of the pawn shop, or had you started teaching as well, or just?
I'd always done some music lessons on the side because, like I said, I was a musician. I played music, so I'd always done some music lessons on the side, friends, family, stuff like that. Anyway, and then, like I said, in 97 is when I went ahead and went out on my own. Took a leap of faith, as you say, and I opened Quality Pawn and Music. That's what it was. It was called Quality Pawn and Music.
And connect pawn and music. This is why you're on the nighttime edition.
But think about it, though, that musicians were starving artists, and the best way to get used gear was to be at the pawn shop to get the good guitars.
We're talking the time before there was eBay, internet.
There was no Amazon. There was no dial-up. That was before AOL.
In fact, at one time, I used to advertise that you could come in and if you couldn't find it from my store, you couldn't find it because there was at least 100 guitars on the wall at any one time.
Wow.
Anyway, so we'll fast forward because Wayne likes to go down memory lane. So we're going to speed this story
speed it up. But when it's all said and done, I'd always wanted to do that. I did drop the pawn shop after about 4 years, just because the clientele wasn't suited for the music lessons. I didn't want little cities coming in for music lessons, and then someone's trying to make loans on power tools and stuff of that nature, which is perfectly fine. But a lot of the construction and carpenters in different times, some of the guys
rough around the edges,
little rough around the edges for some of the parents. And so I just decided to drop that altogether. So we just focused on music at that time, and the music program took off. Like I said, I went from 1,500 square foot to a 6,000 square foot space. And then
I entered the picture.
I had met Muffy several years later, like 10 years later. I was in business 10 years before Muffy came in.
And
wait, so
you want the story?
There was no dance.
Yes.
Muffy brought dance to this.
Well, I'd always wanted to do the performing arts because I was already in theater.
Okay.
But the music is what my foundation was in because I was a gigging musician. And I wanted to expand. And of course, when Muffy came in with her knowledge of dance, and then, of course, her theater background as well, because she also did plays and stuff in school. So we ended up just taking another leap of faith and moving to 8,000 square foot.
Before we moved to the 8,000 square feet, he was in a 6,000 square foot music store. And my daughter was actually a drummer, and I was an event planner, and he was the drum teacher, and we put them in gigs, and they played all around our community. And that's when he shared that, his background in performing arts, and I shared my story. And eventually we got married, and we added a second location for music only, which still runs in our Virginia Beach, about 20 minutes from our current studio. But then like I said, we were outgrowing the 6,000 square feet. And so we took a big leap of faith, literally, into 8,000 square feet, and started with 2 dance studios, 14 private lesson rooms. Yeah, it was awesome.
Wow.
And then the back room that we have now converted into a 3rd dance studio. So we have 3 dance studios, 14 private lesson rooms, and then like a big showcase area that we can house about 100 for music recitals. So we have music, dance, and theater going all 3, fast forward now. But like the dance has been happening since 2012.
2012.
And
we
then
moved in here.
in 2022 or 23, we started the theater. So
our first production started in January of 23.
So I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry, Reed. Would you like to go?
No, you go.
So my like business brain is just like, oh my God, this is amazing. So under your business umbrella, you are now offering music, theater, and dance. How many kids cross-train to become a triple threat? Or how many families do you get to pull in siblings and like, I mean, I feel like this is just such an amazing situation to have so many different options in one location.
Do you have the actual number? It's hard to know because like the theater is done by the show. So we announce like right now this summer we're going to do Legally Blonde Junior. But now in the course of the are we on 8 shows now? I can't keep track. But on the course of the different shows, not every child does every show, but we have a significant amount that has been in all the shows, but they quickly realized that they needed vocal lessons or dance lessons. So the crossover is the same difference. But genres, in our little community of Chesapeake, there wasn't like a theater program. So we started what we call now the Children's Theater of Chesapeake. And under Quality Music and Dance, if that makes sense.
And the big thing was we wanted to, if we were going to do this, we wanted to give them a real experience. Because we do it in theaters, we have backdrops, they got the hid mics, the whole bit, costumes. We try to go full out rather than a lot of like summer programs. It's just, like red and blue T-shirts and stuff.
Right, right.
Thing up in the front. So we do.
The crossover is significant. Yeah. Laura's question was originally the crossover. Yeah. So, but yes.
That is, you took away a question that I had later on. So you tell me if what I say is right. With this model, you actually have an advantage because you have more options for these children. Mm-hmm. You have more options that boys would consider. You have more opportunities where a kid could shine because they have a great voice. They may be an average dancer. Or you could see a kid is a triple threat. I kind of look at this as very brilliant. And I'm a parent bringing my child for dance, but my son could take acting while my daughter is in dance?
Yes.
And the other one could be taking piano or guitar or violin or
trumpet. Right.
Because we teach almost every instrument. Like we don't have a bagpipe teacher or harmonica, but otherwise.
I got to ask you, does that bother you?
I can't imagine the bagpipe.
I think you're okay.
But I mean, like seriously, I mean, when you think about all the instruments that there are, we teach most of them. I personally don't teach them, but we have teachers that teach most of them. So we do try to make it easy for working parents. And it's almost like a challenge at the front desk when we get the phone call that there's 3 kids and one wants guitar, one wants hip hop, and one wants to be in theater. So it's like a challenge for the front desk to be like, okay, Mrs. Jones is on the phone. Who's the teacher that we can put them with, and what time is hip hop, and who has an opening, so that we can make this family come in and be like, wow, they really can do it all under one roof, and their kids have extra activities. And we try to have a nice like waiting area so that while the other child might have to wait, because of traffic flow, we have to have the private lessons on the hour and a half hour, and the dance classes are on the 15 of the hour. So, but like, your sister can be doing homework while you're waiting for your brother to come out of lessons. So, we try our best to accommodate busy working families, but of course I
guess something's working. Shine. I mean, we've been here 28 years, so something's working.
Yes. We're excited for 30 years. Mr. Ree is about to celebrate his 30 years. In Florida.
That is true. And I can vouch that is a long period of time.
It is. And think of how much things have changed in the 30 years that you've done business. Like we were talking earlier about the bounce checks. Like you now you have declined credit cards, but I don't even think people know how to write a check anymore. No. I mean, they probably do, but.
And when I was a kid and my mother was running the studio, they actually took in a lot of cash because people didn't really have credit cards in the 60s, 70s, early 80s. So that made it a different business too. Okay, so tell our viewers or listeners on the podcast about a typical show. Like, what's the structure of it? Tell us, like, if I'm a mom and I've signed up my child for a show, Tell me.
Okay, I'll let you.
All right, I just didn't want to overstep. So the way that we do it, we start off, you sign up for a show. You are guaranteed to be in the show and have a part, but you have to audition. And you come and you pick up the script, and then you will be given a list of songs that you need to prepare. And for depending on what role you want, you submit an audition video. And the videos are due by a certain date. And then our team will get together and we view all the videos. And so by the video auditions, we kind of know what we have. And then when the kids all come in person the very first day, and it's usually during this, we usually have a spring show and a fall show. And they're about 4 months. And it's on Friday nights. And we've branched out into doing 2 casts. So when we first started, we did not know if we had a high demand. So it was just like 1 cast, and we did the auditions on the first night. And then, we had an audition panel meeting and figured out who was cast, and we emailed the cast list, and there we go. But now we've grown so much that we have to have 2 casts. So but they still are both on Friday night. So the 1 cast comes at this time, and then the second cast comes at this time. And that happens all the way through. And then we also do what we call dance boot camps, so that depending on the choreographer's schedule, so the musical theater director, the music director is here and the acting director are here, and they switch studios depending on who's in what scene. And then sometimes the choreographer is here, but we have specific Saturdays that will be choreography days. And they have like 3 hours with the choreographer, and they learn, say, like the opening number and the closing number. And then, they'll come back. And then, so that happens over the course of 3.5 to 4 months every Friday. And we are responsible for the costumes. It's not like dance where they have to pay for their costume. They usually get told that they need an under costume. Something for that. And then after, the rehearsals, then we take them to the studio and they get a tech rehearsal and a dress rehearsal on stage with the microphones. They get to see the backdrops. They get to see all the sets. We usually have most of the set pieces, and we do some dry runs inside the studio, but we don't have all the backdrops and everything, and they don't have their microphones, of course.
Yeah,
usually
we'll get that when we go to the theater.
And then they have a theater, and then they get to put on their shows. I hope that was a good.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, Muffy, can I just say that process is very much what a professional process is right now. Recording yourself, submitting your videos, because that live audition, that doesn't happen anymore until after you submit those videos when you go to auditions. A lot of times, that's something that even colleges have hung on to. For dance auditions, you submit videos and then you get a call back. I was just doing that last year and the year before with graduating seniors, and they literally were like, "This is something that will never change from COVID."
Right.
So
I had to used to make my audition videos on the VHS with the big old camera. That's how now I joke, but do you remember the little reels? What were those called? The things that you stuck on the actual video camera thingies. But anyway, but I had to do audition videos. And the very first year we did do singing auditions at the same time as we did the acting auditions, but we did them individual, and the kids were petrified. And I was like, what are we doing wrong? Because, our biggest thing is that every child is a superstar. We want to make, no matter if you are playing the ensemble role or you got the part of Ariel, you're the star. You're the starfish, you're the jellyfish, you're all famous. But they were so nervous. And I was like, wait a minute, when I was doing it, I had to submit a video. So now they don't have to sing, and they that relief is right off their shoulders, and then they find out their part. But the summer camp is a fast forward version, because it happens in 2 weeks. So they submit their video, and we do the read through audition in the morning, and we let the kids take lunch, and then the panel decides who's cast, and we just say, congratulations, you're this person, and this person.
Let's start.
And we do our first read through. And by the end of the first week, we're doing run throughs of the show. We try to. So then that Monday and Tuesday in our studio, we're doing show run throughs with the set. And then Wednesday and Thursday, we're at the theater. And then Friday and Saturday, they're putting on the show. So
incredible.
It's a marathon. I'm not.
Yeah.
Would you say that if someone is signing up for the shows that they eventually land in one of the classes of some kind in the studio as well?
Well, not all of them, but a good portion of them, if they're consistent.
It's really interesting to me because we had kids come to us for theater and they've only ever done theater, but we've had dance and music students that have crossed over to theater. But there are several students who, like, maybe their first couple of shows they didn't get the part because they weren't as an accomplished singer, so they took voice lessons. But then there have been some kids that were like, oh, if I want to be a good dancer and get better parts, I maybe need to be able to dance too. So there is definitely crossover, but we have some students that all they do is theater, all they do is dance, all they do is music. But there is crossover and there's family crossover, but it just really depends on the family and the individual.
Wow. So I want to shift a little bit. So when it comes to like a studio owner who might be interested in exploring the music or expanding and into like drama for their existing dance program, what would be some smart like first steps to get started?
That is a great question. What would you suggest? I will say that our very first experience with theater was a summer camp. Yeah. We started with a summer camp and it was successful. We didn't have the right people necessarily helping us. So like we regrouped and then COVID happened because we thought we had a plan and then COVID, of course, put the brakes on. Because I want to say the summer camp was in like 17 or 18. And I was like, okay, that was a lot. I don't know if I can do that again. So we like stepped back and had like a planning session. And we were like in 2020, we thought we had a plan. And so then we leaped again. We were going to leap again. And then we decided to pump the brakes to make sure that, our music and dance studio was safe through COVID. And then when we felt like COVID was over, it really takes, I have to say it's the team. You want to have the like-minded people. I mean, that would be the biggest thing I would say is because when we started in 2022, we had maybe not the right people in the right, what is that book? The right seats of the bus. Like you want to make sure that your staff is on board with the vision and that your staff believes in your mission and what your goal is. Because if you have somebody, let's say, that still wants to be on stage, they might not be the right person to help a child be a star on stage. So you have to have the right people gearing your children for success, I would think, and believing and being able to work together because it's a high stress. And
it's all about the kids when it's all said and done. There's a lot of times we've had where some kids are very rambunctious. And there's been plenty of times I'm like, well, let's go ahead and, this person here, let's show them more love. Let's see what we can do. Let's talk to the parents. What can we do to help this child to achieve their goal? Mm-hmm. They're like chatty Cathy's in the middle of the rehearsal. And, then we're not getting anything done because, like she said, we're on a timetable sometimes for getting these.
I would say we trial and error. Our method works because we start with children that can read. I can't imagine, like, we want to branch into younger children. We just have to find more right people. But to get started, you need to make sure you have a really strong team and good work ethic because it is not easy.
It's a lot of hours.
It is a lot of hours. And you have to be creative and think outside the box, I would say, outside of the box thinking, because we are truly blessed with a large location where we can run a rehearsal out front. But I can't imagine if you only had a dance studio space, and I don't know how big everybody's studio is, but from a dance studio perspective, to be able to put, 30 theater kids in one room. We are blessed where we can split them up. And we can then take it even smaller because like when the vocal coach is here, she will go into one of our music lesson rooms with a piano and then work with the soloists. So you have to, have the people that can multitask, but a lot of planning, a lot of planning. And I will say that every show we learn something new. And I think that's the same for everybody. Like when you do a recital, when you do a conference, you're going to be like, okay, what could I have done better? what can I do? Because the last thing you want to do is be stagnant, right? That's why we're all entrepreneurs.
If you're standing still, then, no grass grows under our feet. It keeps moving. Got to keep moving.
Yeah. And I like your suggestion of starting it smaller, maybe with a 2-week summer musical program or something that's maybe not jumping into that huge fall production, 4 months, full stage. Like maybe it is in your black box theater, you turn into your largest studio space if you have that option, and make it smaller that first one and get the interest going and let it naturally build too.
Yeah, we did our first one in a church to see, and I don't think they had microphones.
Yeah, it was a summer camp.
It was like a summer camp, so it was very small scale.
Something like that.
So
yeah, that's perfect.
So, Wayne, you're trained in theater production and music. Muffy, you are the lead in the dance program, and you all do other jobs. How do you balance your individual strengths while sharing this business and sharing your personal life?
That is a loaded question, Mr. Gold. I will tell you that.
You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming.
And to be honest, again, it takes the right staff, because in the beginning it was Wayne and I a lot, but now we have a dance department head and an assistant director who takes some of the load off. But I mean, Wayne just told me today that he still needs to do some book work. Like he was like, because like we were talking about, next week we have blah, blah, blah to do. The following week we're at conference. And he was like, oh, by the way, I have a deadline on August 15th. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let's map out some time to make that work.
The biggest thing is, and both of you have your studios, the paperwork never ends.
Nope. Yep.
It's always paperwork to do. And there's always taxes, audits.
And that's Wayne's strength.
And
he's the numbers guy, right? So we try to play to each other's strengths. I'm the people person. So I'm out front. I'm like the Walmart greeter. But seriously, it is hard though, because there has been days when I've come home, because like a lot of times, like half of the secret is he spends half of his time at the other location. Honestly, like I mean,
get more done. I'm not being asked 50 zillion questions.
So you go to the other location because it's quiet and you get a lot of work done.
Yeah, he does. And Wayne still teaches. That is his true passion.
I still teach 4 days a week.
What do you teach, Wayne? What is your specialty?
Guitar, bass, ukulele, but guitar and bass is my main instruments. Yeah.
Anyway, but it is I like to call it a balancing act, or I don't know. It is. There's been days though when I've come home and I'm like, okay, so am I getting a new job or a new husband? Which one is it? And sometimes I think both, but that's only like on a really bad day, because we are really blessed, and we do try to know like each other's like strong suits and go with it. It doesn't always work that way, because we also are both like, have you ever heard the terminology about the dreamer? There's always the person that's the kite, and then there's always somebody that's supposed to hold the kite, keep the kite grounded. Yeah. We both need somebody to keep us on the ground. Yeah. And like we've learned that throughout, like we're both big dreamers and we want to make it all happen. And we're like, oh, we can do this, until it's 1 o'clock in the morning and we're outside the studio building a rock for Ariel. And I'm like, who said we could do this? I mean, because that's the real, right? Because like, if there's somebody here that wants to be inspired, like I want to, because we have been blessed with plenty of mentors. Both of you are them, but tons of people along the way have told you. But if you don't hear the real side of it, it's like you have to put in the time, you have to put in the hours, and you have to like each other.
Yeah, so. like she said, I mean, there's been plenty of times that we're working on programs, be it recital, be it theater, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. It's been a couple of times we pulled all-nighters and then gone right back to work the next day just to get the job done.
And I think that's something that people don't realize, what it takes to put on a show like what we do, whether it's our recitals, whether it's our productions. Like, I don't think people truly get, they're like, oh, you just throw them out on stage, turn the lights on, turn the lights off, do the music, and you're like, if you only really knew from
I will say-
August through
I
the
will
year
say,
to make
you
it
kind of
happen.
have to educate your parents too, because
Yes.
the parents
Mhm.
don't understand. Like they'll be like, "Oh, they got invited to a birthday party. They cannot come to dress rehearsal." And I'm like,
Right.
they didn't have dress rehearsal yet. They have to be a dress rehearsal if you want them on the stage. And that makes you sound mean, but like if they don't know when they're supposed to change, like
Plus-
those, it's
Plus,
a
at
lot
the
of that.
theater, when we're using backdrops and we got flies coming in and going out,
Yeah.
you can't have someone running around the stage that might get
No.
hit, or
It's a safety issue for sure. Yeah.
we can't
Yeah.
we can't do that. It's a very
But we're getting ready for music recitals this weekend. I think we have 7 music recitals between Saturday and Sunday.
and we'll be
What
here
What does
for
a
all of them.
music recital consist of? I'm just curious. How long would
Music
one be, and how many kids are in it?
So we do our music recitals per teacher. So for example,
Oh,
Miss
nice.
Diane teaches a plethora of instruments, but Miss Diane has selected to have 3 music recitals. So her music recitals, I think, are like on, what is the 12th? Is that Saturday or Sunday? I don't have the calendar, but anyway, so like 4, 5, and 6. And she'll have about 20 students, and we have seating for about 100 people up front. We hang a curtain, we put the piano out, the music stand out, the microphone, because we have vocal students, guitar students, piano students, all the string instruments. And they come and they're allowed to bring as many guests as they want. And the kids perform and they do a beautiful job. It's very inspirational to see the kids perform. And we try to
keep it as intimate and family-like as possible. I mean, like she said, when I first started, I would go out and do recitals over a period of 2 or 3 nights, and it would be like 400 or 500 people in a room, and we'd be running them up and on the stage performing, and the next one would come on, and that was okay, but it was a lot of work. We're able to do it here in-house. It's much easier to walk up and talk to people that you see every day and everything.
Mhm.
So we enjoy it.
Yeah, and I feel like then you can utilize your space too. You have this big, beautiful space, and then if anything, if they can bring in cousins and family, they're going to go into your space and be wowed and then that's also kind of, with it being in a more intimate setting, I would kind of be like, oh, you offer dance here, you offer theater here. Like I kind of feel like that's another opportunity to get them in there.
I didn't even think of that from that angle, but that is true. A lot of people come through. But it's just refreshing to see, because like the whole reason why you do it is to perform for others, right? I mean, that's the ultimate goal in my mind, is to share your gift.
Yeah, the true gift is to share it with others, and be it music, dance, theater. It's all about the arts, and that's what we're about. We just want to promote the arts for the kids, because, like I said, it was my safe haven growing up with music. In fact, a little bit unknown, my mother, I was very I wasn't real active outside and played and stuff a lot, but when I played music, she would take my guitar away.
Oh, that was his punishment.
That was my punishment. And was told to leave the house because I was sitting in my room for hours just to play. So
now he has so many guitars. I'm like, you can only play one at a time. We don't need all those guitars, but anyway, but I hope I explained what a music recital. We got way off.
No, you did good.
No, it's perfect. Yeah, that was perfect.
We do set a timer for certain subjects, though, just as a, because I don't know, the original question was like, how do you do it as a husband and wife team? And sometimes we literally have to say, we are not talking about work. And our children are good to remind us that it's family time and don't talk about what happened at the studio. But when we do need to have a conversation, maybe at home, we will like set the timer. I mean, literally, I would go like this because it's like a timer, and I'll be like, we have 20 minutes to problem solve this because I'm not spending our only day off on what we did wrong at whatever the event was or whatever, so that we can try to do it, because you do have to have like your getaway.
Yeah, and I think that's a really healthy way to do it.
Mm.
Yeah.
So Do you stick to it? Like, do you go a whole day without talking dance, or is it just?
It depends on if you're actually really on vacation.
Whatever you answer is okay. There's no wrong answer to that question.
No, I know, but it's funny though because we try, we really do try hard, and then we'll joke, be like, "Oh, you brought up work." No, who brought up work? But to be fair, I have to say, I will give you one tip. No. Wayne is a ritual. He gets up, he goes and checks the computer. He checks the numbers every single day. And that's why I say that's his job. Like, he makes sure he knows what is happening, how many students were registered, how many students withdrew, and then how much money is in the bank, and that everything is good to go. Even when we're in Aruba, he will do that. So I always joke that it's him because he started work even on vacation. But sometimes I'll be like, oh my gosh, I forgot to tell you. Like, because I mean, I know it's crazy. We see each other every day. Sometimes we do ride to work. Like today we rode to work together. And it's Thursday. And I was like, you're never going to believe who came into the studio on Monday. And it was like somebody who played music with when they were 25 years old. And I didn't get to tell him because I had forgot about it. But I mean, you know, I hope that.
No, that's great.
Can I just say that in my 30 years, as we talked about earlier, of doing this, do you know how special what you have is? How many dance teachers wish that even they had a husband that said, hey, I so much appreciate what you do. You have a unique thing, and always be grateful for that.
Yeah, to share a passion for the same thing, I think that is like,
and get along and stay married while you're building this.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because sometimes like our staff will call us like mom and dad, and they'll be like, ooh, mom and dad are in a fight right now. Like, I was like, guys, that is not newsworthy. It's newsworthy when it's like, ooh, mom and dad are actually getting along. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But like, I mean, because there are times when like he will have like a vision, and I'm like, but listen to me, my vision is better. But I mean, I think it happens with everything. But I mean, you know, I joke like, is it a blessing or a curse? But I mean, it really is a different perspective to share. But there are other husbands that help out, so we should give shout outs to like.
Okay, I will. I agree with you. I've met some terrific husbands along the way.
Yep. Agreed.
We want to have a little bit of fun. We have 5 rapid fire questions for you. Whatever.
We have a bulletproof vest for this. Rapid fire. Take cover.
Laura, start us off.
Okay, so quick. Are we coffee or tea?
Neither.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, when it's really cold, I'll have a cup of hot tea. But one of the things that instantly I liked about Wayne is he didn't have coffee breath, because I don't like coffee and neither does he.
Okay.
So then what do you drink in the studio then? All day? Water. Wow.
Sometimes Diet Pepsi. And he's a Mountain Dew if we need caffeine. But
I'm either coffee, water, and my exception is a Diet Dr. Pepper.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Usually have it on the airplanes. Okay, favorite musical or play?
Gosh, that's not fair, because there's so many good ones. And is it like current, or that we produced, or that we want to produce? Or we
your favorites of all time, like not what you produce, just your favorite.
That is so hard. I'm so sorry, because there's so many that are special to me for so many reasons.
Okay, just give me one that's special.
Okay, Lion King. I'll go Lion King, because we got to go backstage and see how they did it. And that was the most inspirational thing I have seen. I will never do Lion King because we could never do it justice.
And
those costumes that they have to learn, but the thought and the creativity, I will go Lion King. Mr. Wayne, your answer, it's rapid fire answer.
Well,
just like your wife just did, by the way.
No, I'm not going to go there. But actually, one we just saw, I always like lighthearted ones. Smash, I thought was really good. I like that.
It's going off Broadway. I just got the message.
Is that right? Yeah. That sucks. That's awful.
We went to we saw The Outsiders and Smash a couple of months ago, but I heard Smash isn't doing so good. That's always the case. Any show that he likes, it always gets discontinued. But next question.
Wow. Okay, so Muffy, for you, your first dance recital, a memory. And then Wayne, how about your first performance memory as well? So Muffy, you go first.
So I had this I remember dancing as a little kid, and it was a Star Wars recital, was my first recital in the 70s, like when Star Wars was big, and I didn't get to dance. I was like a little stormtrooper thing, and I was mad because I didn't get to dance. But then the year that I finally got to dance, the song was like 5'2", Eyes of Blue, and they wanted me to slide through somebody's legs, and I was like, I don't want to go under somebody's legs. I was always a problem child in class, girl in the back of the roll. And when I told my dance teacher that I owned a studio, she died the next year because I think she was impure.
Oh my God.
Because like seriously, I was always the troublemaker. But because like the
Do
first
you remember why you didn't want to go through the legs, and like were you scared of it?
I don't know. I mean, I felt like the girl that was supposed to pull me through her legs was not. I was like, let me pull her through because like she's not getting me all the way through. Like I know that sounds silly, but, like, I mean, it was a red and white costume. I remember it till the day I die. I will never use that song because I'm traumatized by it. And I'm not a Star Wars person because I didn't want to be like the little sand trooper guy either. So go, Wayne. What's your music?
Okay. My first performance playing music was with a family band, like I said, because it was my mother. But all this came about for us to have a family band was my mother's father, my grandfather, died of cancer. And we wanted to do a fundraiser to raise money for the hospice unit at Norfolk General. And we held it at the it was the Eagles Club in South Norfolk. And that actually springboarded us into gigging on a regular basis. And we went on what I always refer to lovingly as the animal circuit, the moose, the elks, the eagles. And then, of course, I moved on to clubs. So it was fun.
Awesome. And meaningful.
Best thing about owning your own business?
That is tough.
Okay, so much for rapid fire. You are
we're not rapid fire. I'm so sorry.
Slow and easy
I haven't noticed
fire.
that long enough to know that we are deep in like.
I guess the best thing about owning your own business is that, it's ours.
It's Uncle Sam's, to
Yeah.
be honest. To be
right.
Nobody owns anything
owns
except
nothing.
for the government, unfortunately. But that's a whole nother late night chat we don't want to be on. But I guess the best thing is like the sense of pride of ownership when you walk in and think, wow, how many lives have we touched? Like I always joke when you see the burger sign, like McDonald's has like 80 million burgers served, and I always want to think like how many fortes were learned and how many middle C's were learned.
Actually, when we first moved to this location, when we first opened up, I remembered someone came in that had known me for years and was a customer at the other studios. And he came in and he said, "Wayne, your boat finally came in." I said, "Yeah." I just wish there was something on board, because it was like we did all this work. We came in here. I mean, you had to, you know how much of an expense it is to open a location. So it was just a lot, but I'm very blessed, and we are very blessed.
Yeah. What is your favorite way to unwind after a long day at the studio?
I take a bath with like lavender salts.
Honestly, I'm the kind of person I'll go to the house and I'll just sit there and I'll watch some TV or YouTube or something just to unwind.
And it's usually about like how to restring a guitar or something work related still. So sorry, just putting it out there. He always works. He only is not working when he's sleeping.
I can be that way too, but I'm a little addicted to YouTube, Wayne, if that makes you feel.
It's a rabbit hole situation. Stop it.
I
think there needs to be a 12-step program for it.
For me, it's crime. once these crime shows come on, and then you just like, oh, I don't have time for that. But you're listening subliminally, and now you can't leave it because you have to know the outcome.
They get you sucked in.
It's a rabbit hole. You're exactly right. I'll go on there to look up one thing like, oh, I need to know how to put this together. And then all of a sudden, ooh, that looks interesting. And click. And it's over.
That's what they want us to do, my friends. So Erin's been with us the whole time. It's been nice to have you with us tonight, Erin.
Yes, thank you.
So, Laura, we've come to the end. Thank you, Muffy and Wayne.
We might not be asked back. We didn't do
it.
I'll ask you back.
Thank you very much.
You absolutely will. So
us.
that is a wrap on this evening's Living the Dream. Be sure to follow us on socials, subscribe on Apple and Spotify, or don't miss out on special episodes, which will be live from the Dance Life Teacher Conference.
And a huge thank you to Jackrabbit Dance for sponsoring us again today. Your support is really appreciated. Thanks again, Muffy and Wayne.
Yes, thank you again. Good night, everyone, and keep living the dream.
That's a wrap on this episode of Living the Dream. A huge thank you to our sponsor, Jackrabbit Dance, for their support of our community and helping dance studios thrive. If you loved today's conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your dance friends. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep dancing, and keep making a difference.